All right, good morning, everybody. We are back. It's Monday morning. We're mid-December, and man, we are quickly approaching the end of 2023. We've got today, and we've got one more Dew Crew meeting. That's next Monday for the remainder of the year, and then we'll reconvene in January. I've got some a nice present for you guys that I'm going to give all next week. So I want you to definitely jump on here if you can and be a part. Otherwise, you can certainly watch the recording. But I've got some big things that I want to share for you, and some big ideas, some big goals that I have for next year with the group. What I'd like to do and where I'd like to take it. So I'll share all that with you next week. It'll be a good way to wrap up the year. Give you lots to think about, and good reason to come back in January. So. And that's what we want, right? We want everybody that's part of this group to come back. We've actually got about 40 people that are part of the group, but I know many just kind of jump on here and there. But we'd like to grow that a little bit too. So before I get into today's topic, I want to go ahead and share some wins or some gratitude. Who wants to start us off today? All right, nobody's grateful for anything. I'll start. All right, I'm grateful. We've picked up 3 new listings this past week, and we're grateful to wrap up the year with some new listings coming on the market that should be on this by the end of this week. We're very happy for that, and bring some more unique opportunities our way. So we're definitely grateful for finishing the year much stronger than we anticipated. It's been an overall good year for us. And regardless of the trials and tribulations that we've been facing all year long, I'd say that we're pretty grateful for where we're ending up this year. So who wants to go next? Ellie, you had your hand up. Yeah.
Got a property under contract last night.
Congratulations. Very cool.
I'll go.
Okay.
I don't know if I said this last week, if we went around and did this last week, but a week before we had our sales retreat. And I actually got an award for the 4 of us out of the 32 reps got awards for the President's Club. So
nice.
Either you had to have over $1 million in revenue, or you had to hit your profit goal every month, which I did. And so I want to say thank you to Paul and Valerie and Ellie. You guys have helped me tremendously. So thank you. And I'm very grateful.
Congratulations.
It's awesome. Yeah. Congratulations. That's amazing. So, all right. Who else? Well, I know we're a grateful bunch here. Valerie?
I'll go. I'll just kind of add on what Paul said. These 3 new listings are all from our sphere. So, I mean, never underestimate sending out those. I just sent out tons of Christmas cards, so I've hit my 10 for the week. But anyway, never underestimate just reaching out and touching people. You don't necessarily have to talk about real estate. You can just catch up. So I just am grateful for people out there.
Yeah, and the people that you do business with or that you have conversation with, they know many other people, and that's where sometimes things develop from those other relationships. So and that's where a couple of these come in for us. So very cool. Who else wants to go?
I'll share.
All right, Dagmar.
I know we haven't met in a little bit, but I am really grateful for the weekly mentorship that we have here with Paul, not on the Monday morning, but we have it on Wednesdays. And if it wasn't for that, I don't know what I would have done with my buyers out west and their crazy inspections. But I'm just really grateful for the mentorship in this group.
Very good. Very good. Well, it's a pleasure of mine to be here for everybody and to share my knowledge. I also, it also comes back to me, when you guys share, I learned from you as well. So it is definitely mutual. There's many benefits that everybody brings to the table here. And I hope that we can continue to all keep sharing and you know, because help educate each other, because things are going to keep changing. And as long as things keep changing, we have to keep learning. Anybody else want to go? Elliot or Bill, we haven't heard from you guys.
I'm all of our decorations are up. It poured rain last night here, and everything made it through the rain. And I think we're out of the blue. We were outside doing something in the yard or something, and out of the blue, Rosella said to me, "You know, I really couldn't do this without you." And I was thinking, well, 30 years later. And it was just the sweetest offhand comment. It was just lovely. So certainly made my year. So
Very
I'm
cool.
grateful for you guys and for my family.
Good deal. Good deal. And Elliot.
Just
Oh, wait a
for
minute.
life,
I'm grateful
and
for Elliot too.
I'm
So,
grateful for Bill. I'm grateful for everyone. So yeah, just grateful for life.
All right. All right. Good deal. Good deal. Well, we appreciate everybody being here. I especially, this is just something that I like to do, and it's my turn to give back in this business for having been in it for so long. I was watching a webinar. I don't remember if it was last week or the week before, but you as you all know, I really love Darren Hardy, and I still subscribe to his Darren Daily. I get his videos every day. I've got a Insane Productivity, which is a really great 12 module program that I keep saying, all right, how can I share this with everybody and do this? It's just that it's a big commitment to because each video is an hour long. So I want to bring that to the group. Maybe that'd be a good way to start off January. I'm not sure. I'll have to reevaluate that. Might be something that we do in the evenings to get everybody engaged in that. But more on that next week. But he had a great webinar, and of course, you know, every time you go to a free webinar, it's always to sell you something at the end, right? And that's something that, you know, in all of my education, in my leadership trainings, in my coaching trainings, and it's all about how to upsell people, and it's, for me, it's like a big turnoff, which is why I'm not here selling anything, right? I'm not trying to promote anything other than, hey, let's get together and help each other out. But I sit through these free webinars knowing that there's going to be, you know, some sort of sales pitch at the end, but I try to take all the good nuggets from it, right, and educate myself. And I've done this, you know, for as long as webinars have been around. I've also gone to tons of seminars. This is how I learned about doing taxes and what I can do, what I can't do in business. And so I find it very educational. So what I wanted to do is just share with you. I've taken, Darren just did a webinar on predicting what's coming in 2024 and the meta skills necessary to kind of overcome all of that, right? And I'm like, yeah, this is really interesting. So I wanted to kind of take that and then apply it more towards real estate specifically, because, you know, that's what we do, right? And while, you know, the real world keeps going, and there's trials and tribulations everywhere, and there's turmoil and there's turbulence, but yet, you know, sometimes some of us are affected by it, and other times, you know, all that stuff is going on, but we're totally unaffected by it. But, you know, our real estate business is being affected by a lot of different things today. We've talked about the lawsuits going on and the craziness with that. And but, you know, we've got coming up in 2024, you know, we're still we're going to be facing a lot of economic turmoil and certainly volatility in the economy. It's been shaky, and there's a lot of reasons for that, right? I'm not going to get political on this platform at all. Some people will blame it on the politics. Some people will blame it on COVID. I look at it as, look, this is a natural cycle. We were on an up cycle for a long, long time. We needed to go on a down cycle. As Jim Rohn always said, you know, when you have expansion, it follows with recession. After recession, you have expansion, right? That's just the natural flow of things. And that's kind of where we're at, right? There's always a natural flow in real estate. There's cycles that are involved. Because things happen. You know, we've gone excessively up. Now, you know, it's got to kind of correct itself a little bit before it kind of settles and becomes more normal. So that's kind of what, like, where we're at right now. And that is in part of, you know, the interest rates going up. I think that the interest rates going up, while, you know, can be problematic for some, I think that there's some that it's like, well, okay, you know, we're already set. We're staying put. We got a, you know, 3% mortgage, and there's no reason for us to sell our house and move somewhere else and have a 7% mortgage. So while other people, they're like, I want to buy a house. I want it now. I don't care what the interest rates are. They're going to buy it, right? Or the people with the cash, they come in and they buy the house. So regardless of what the turmoil is, whatever the economic situation is, there's always going to be chaos and opportunity. It's just always there. Even in the best of times, there's going to be chaos for some and big opportunities for others. So in a downturn, there's chaos and there's still opportunity. You have to go out there and seek that, right? You have to look for it. You have to be aware, because sometimes those opportunities are in front of you. If you're not aware of it or watching for it, it's going to pass you right by. So you have to be ready to you know, just as this post behind me says, opportunity, right? You know, don't wait for your ship to come in. Go out, you know, swim out to it. And that's just it. You got to watch for those opportunities and make sure that, you know, you're going after the opportunities that are right for you. Now, something else that's been happening, as I think is going to continually get worse, is the tech disruption. You know, technology. I'm a techie, right? I was a technical trainer before I became a real estate agent. And I did that for a few years. And it was just amazing. Just back in 2020, 2021, in that time frame, I was a trainer, and the speed of the change of technology, I thought, was at light speed then. And now it's just like even faster. Things are changing so quickly with technology, and there's constantly coming, you know, new technologies coming up. New companies with different ideas and new technologies are arriving. And if we don't embrace that change and adapt to it, we're going to get left behind. So you have to watch that. See, I see these new things that come out, and I'm like, wow, this is great, but do I really want to invest my time and energy in learning this? Because you know what? I think that this is going to be obsolete in a couple months. By the time I learn it and figure it out, it's going to be obsolete, and there'll be something else replacing it. So, you know, that's something we have to watch for. But at the same time, we have to pick and choose certain things that we work with and ride with that, right? You know, maybe there'll be something else newer that comes out, but we can't always chase that shiny penny. We can't just because something is newer and might seem better than what you're using. Don't just go chase that, because, you know, you can continue using what you're using and still make it work for yourself. So I know that there's plenty of other, I'll use this as an example, but plenty of other apps for shooting videos and things of that nature. I started using Big View a few years ago. I still use it. I've seen others that I'm like, oh my God, that seems like it's so much better than Big View. But I'm like, I'm already using this. I know it. I can work it. And I can also take what I see in others and say, hey, why don't you see about implementing this into your application? Because if we give those other good ideas to the companies we're currently using, they can sometimes make those changes and adapt their platform to what others are demanding of. So that's something you can definitely do with the technology. Misinformation. That epidemic is just going to continually get worse. you know, with the technology, the social media, especially, people just, you know, jumping on the bandwagon for different things and seeing things and believing, oh my God, I saw it online, so it must be true. That is just going to continue to get worse, because of all the things we have going on in the world today, and the political atmosphere that is going to be an election year. You got wars going on throughout the world, and so the misinformation. It's just so easy for somebody to go create something, throw it out there online, and it catches on and it goes viral, and all of a sudden everybody believes that that's what the truth is, right? So that misinformation is an epidemic, and it's not going to get better in 2024. So you've got to watch for that. The global conflicts. Look, we've got global conflicts going on. I mean, we've got other stuff going on that has taken us away from Ukraine, and so we don't hear much about Ukraine. And then we've got, you know, the Middle East, and I don't know. Since I've been a kid, there's never been peace in the Middle East. So, but there's constantly these issues going on. We're being dragged into it as a nation. We don't know where that's going to go. Of course, in a election year, it could go either way. But I think that we're going to see some things changing this year that might be a little bit unexpected. We might see some quick changes coming, just to divert maybe some disasters. But let's hope they're smart enough to be able to do that. But you know, we've got too many conflicts going on that can definitely influence where the real estate market goes moving forward too. So, and then the fifth thing was the social political division. You know, we've been slowly getting divided as a nation over politics, and people have just kind of like let that rule their lives. It's divided families. I know I have a family that's somewhat divided. Yeah, Jeremy, you're you know, and it's a shame. It's a shame. And look, I'm a firm believer, you know, you shouldn't be talking politics, religion, and sex. Those are the three topics you just stay away from, right? Unless you're with close friends or your significant other, you can talk about all that stuff all you want. But when you're with other family members, when you're with people of the public, when you're with people that you're working with, those are topics you stay away from. On social media, just stay away from them, because those are the things that become so controversial. And you know, when you have an opinion that's different from somebody else, they're like, whoa, wait a minute, you know, their backs are up against the wall, and they're like, what are you talking about? You know, that's not how I see things. That's different than the way I believe. And it's like, well, why even go there? Because, you know, it's a belief. So your belief is different from their belief. Accept it, move on, and change the topic. So, you know, you've got to, because that's not, again, we're going into an election year, and we're going into an election that is a repeat of 2020 from what it looks like right now. And that could change again, because you know, they don't know what to do with Biden. So if they remove him, that, you know, we don't know where that's going. So you want to be careful moving forward, because people see this online. If you engage in any of the conversations, and there's times where I've seen a meme and I'm like, oh my God, that's so funny. But I'm like, oh my God, no, this is also divisive. I'm not even going to put a like on it, because people can see that I like that kind of sense of humor or something. And then people will place judgment on me. There's a lot of stuff I post. I don't care if they place judgment on me for it, but I do stay away from the politics, the religion, and the sex stuff, because it's just, those are the three things that really become divisive, and you don't want to, you just don't want to engage in that. So how do you overcome these big things that are, you know, going to be a part of 2024? You know, it's going to affect the real estate market. We've here, you know, the predictions are all over the board, right? You know, I wish I had a crystal ball that was so clear that I can see what the future is gonna bring. But I can tell you that in the past, all of my experience, especially living through 2008, all the economists were wrong. You know, nobody could predict where we were going, how severe things would get. Just as, you know, nobody could predict when COVID hit, what happened to the market. And then nobody really could predict that, you know, where we're at today and where are we going in the future. So, you know, I'd like to think that the market's not going to crash. We're not going to have any severity like 2008. There's no indication that we will. Will we see some more correcting going on in the market? There's a good chance that we will. But, you know, we have to continually move forward, just as with all the NAR lawsuits going on out there. You know what? We have no control over that. We have no say over it. All we can do is keep working in our business and on our business to do what we can, adapt to any changes that are coming our way. So some skills that you're going to need moving forward. Okay. You got to, if you're not engaged in using generative AI just yet, you need to jump on the bandwagon. Okay. That stuff is not going away. It is something that will definitely help you in your business. It can really make an impact and help you with your marketing, help you. I mean, you can create an assistant out of AI to where you can start assigning different things. You can have it cleaning out your email account. There's a number of things that you can use AI for and be able to implement that in your business to save you time, money, and energy. And that's something that as we move forward, you want to look deeper into. And I'm going to try to bring more of that to the forefront as well. I've been toying with it since almost the beginning of this year. Before it really started taking off, I was like, oh my God, I heard about it. And I started playing with it. I'm like, oh, this is cool. Then I started learning about different prompts. And when you can create a prompt has what you need. So it's, you know, AI is garbage in, garbage out. So you have to, the key to AI is having the right prompt to be able to tell it what you need so that it can provide you that information. The better you can tell it, the better the information is going to be. So, but get to know it because there's so much of it out there. Yes, ChatGPT is free. You know, you can go on the paid platform. Then there's all kinds of other spin-offs that are subscription based that you can pay for. It's really not that expensive if you wanted to buy into particular programs, but you can get by with the free ChatGPT because I'll tell you what, that's still very, very effective. The second skill that you're going to need is leadership. People will be like, well, Paul, you know, I don't want to be a broker. I don't want to lead a team. I don't care about leadership. Well, look, leadership is influence. You know, sales is influence. So it all ties together. And whether it's for sales or anything else in life, having a self-directed leadership education is going to be key to helping you through all kinds of different scenarios. And that could be, you know, from an emergency situation to just working your business, right? Because as salespeople, we are leaders. We're leading our buyers and sellers, right? We're trying to help them and do what's right for them, by them. And that's done through leadership. So being prepared and improving those leadership skills that you already have been developing, you know, to continually develop that. I didn't get into leadership until I became a broker, because before that I was a real estate agent. I didn't really understand the importance of that and the tie-in between leadership and sales and influence until I got into a leadership position. And I was like, man, I need to learn more about being a leader. That I started as self-directed education for leadership. And then it, of course, advanced me to where I'm at today. That's a big part of my progress and how I've been able to do the things that I've done and have the great successes that I've had. So, so that's something that you're going to need to look at moving forward. The third thing is going to be learning adaptability. Okay, we can't ever stop learning. So long as the world is always going to keep changing, the real estate industry is always going to keep changing. As I say it, you know, the only constant in real estate is change. And so you've got to be able to adapt to that. Now, being adaptable is a skill you can learn. So you need to constantly be learning how to adapt to different situations, and don't get too frustrated with it. I know sometimes it's hard to say don't get frustrated at all, but sometimes, change can be frustrating. And the thing is that be able to recognize that, acknowledge that, and say, okay, what do I need to do here to be able to adapt to this, to be able to embrace this change, right? Embrace it through resiliency, okay? Because we all are resilient, and through resiliency, we can overcome anything. So you want to make sure that you become adaptable, because things are going to keep changing even faster than they have been changing. And so, the only way we're going to get through that is by being adaptable. The fourth thing was power of the people around you. Who you associate with. This is and this is something I learned as a kid, right? It's just, who you hang around with. You become who you hang around with. And I always say, look at your 5 closest friends and see, where are they at? And are you like in the middle? Are you in the average of those 5 people, or you the leader of those 5 people? And I say, you know what? If you're in a group of 5 and you're like at that number 1 spot, it's time to find a new group, because they're learning from you. You're not learning from them. And so it's always important to look at that, right? Because no matter who you hang around with, you got to look at, well, what am I getting from this relationship? And I've had plenty of relationships where, there's nothing reciprocating in the relationship other than, hey, we like to have the occasional conversation. We like each other, but there's nothing else in common. And there's no other learning from each other. So the relationship is just there. But then there's other relationships. It's just like, wow, every time we have a conversation, there's something to be learned. There's some way to help each other out and make an improvement in our life. So you've got to continually build those relationships that you have, and find new relationships that need to be built and nurtured. So the more you can, expand those associations, the more you're going to be able to adapt to the changes that are coming your way, because this is a numbers game, and you've got to have those associations with different people. Remember that it's not always the people that we're connected to that we're going to be doing business with. It's those that we're connected to that they're connected to that we will also gain business from, okay, and build new relationships with. And then the 5th thing is making your purpose personal. Okay, this falls back to, why are you doing real estate? And as I like to say, well, why are you doing real estate, and what were you thinking? As Dr. Phil would say, because look, there's a lot of things about real estate that we get into it, and we're not sure maybe why we got into it. I know that I had a really strong why when I started, and I try to help people bring that why out, because you know what, they say that heart beats brawn anytime. And so when you're working from your heart, and it's because of your why, why are you working so hard in this business? That's going to always be your reminder that, okay, look, I don't feel like going to do this right now, but I need to go do it, because it's all part of the big picture here on why I need to be doing this, and be building my business, be making money, and providing a lifestyle for myself, my family, whoever that might be. So getting a good firm grasp on your why is going to be something that you need to have, and you should be working on. And this is something that changes. When I got into real estate 20 years ago, my why was a lot different than my why now for doing this. It's completely different. And so you should be analyzing that every single year. Why am I still doing this? What is my purpose in providing this service to people and working with people and doing real estate? Is there something else I'm meant to be doing, or is this my purpose? And what is my purpose behind this? And so the stronger you can develop that, the more everything becomes a little bit more effortless. That makes sense, because I mean, like it becomes more of a ritual, you know, and a routine. And when you have rituals and routines, you're doing things without really thinking about what they're doing, because it's that thinking that creates the weight that makes you slow down and make you wonder and overthink things. And so if the more automated you can become, then the easier things will become. Does that make sense? So I thought there would be a good, this would be a good topic to talk about here today, and discuss as we go into 2024, because, I've been through many election years in real estate, and, I've heard people talk, well, it's an election year, so, we just got to live with what comes our way, and there's nothing we can do about real estate. The market's just going to be flat. And I say, well, if that's the prediction, then I have to get my act in gear, maybe go push a little bit harder. Because no matter what the market conditions are, no matter what the world circumstances are, people still have to buy and sell homes. Everybody's got to live somewhere. So I have to look at myself and say, all right, what am I doing? Working? What's not working? What can I do differently? And so you should be analyzing that as we move into 2024. Hopefully you've done that with your business plan. Hopefully everybody here has done a business plan, as we've started talking about that back at the beginning of November. Hopefully you found one that you like and you've instituted for yourself. But, you can't predict the future. You can't predict what 2024 is going to be, but you can predict how you're going to handle things moving forward, how you're going to adapt, the things you're going to do for your business that is going to make an impact. And when you see that if the market's changing and the market's changing to a negative, well, maybe you got to put a little bit more energy on your part to be able to, make that adaptation to it and make the changes necessary in your life, in your business, that will make you adapt to those changes and be a success. Any comments on that? Anybody relate? I know several of you on here have been through other election years in real estate, and you probably have recall seeing and hearing similar type situations. Oh, it's an election year, so yeah, we got to sit back and wait. So, we can't sit back and wait. When you sit back and wait, life passes you by. So you have to be the one that is proactive, and you have to be assertive and go out there. Now, for some, they'll be even more aggressive. Now, the aggressive part is up to you. I mean, how aggressive you want to be, but assertive you want to be assertive with what you're doing. Being aggressive, that means really going out there and knocking on doors and being in people's faces. And for some people that works really, really well. For others, not so well. Valerie, were you putting your hand up?
Yeah, I was saying, what I always look for and I always simply look at is the change. So whether I'm talking to somebody one-on-one at the micro level or at the macro level, what's changed, look for that change and be the solution. I mean, I just simply put, so.
Mm-hmm. As we talk about many times, we're problem solvers. So look for solutions, because that's what we provide, is solutions for people. Buyers and sellers have a problem, right? They need to do something. They need to sell their home and move somewhere, buy somewhere else. Buyers, like, I'm tired of renting. They want to buy. A lot of these people don't know how to accomplish it, and they need our help. That's not going away anytime soon. People still need our help. This will always be a relationship industry. How you get paid moving forward, that could be something that changes. But you know what? The only way to resolve that is to just keep going after listings. When you go after listings, then you're controlling your income and you're controlling what's going on in your particular market. So what we'll do is in January, we're gonna run through some some good things on getting listings and how to get listings, and I think we'll probably focus on that a little bit more heavily as we move forward too, because that is going to be the name of the game, no doubt. Always has been. Always has been. It's just I've had numerous agents working under me as I was a broker, and like, oh, I only want to be a buyer's agent, and I'm like, okay, why? And they'd be like, well, yeah, I like showing homes, and I get to build these relationships with these buyers because I'm spending so much time with them. I'm like, yeah, but how many times are you a taxi driver? And then of course this goes back when we used to actually spend more time driving people around. Now we see that people are mostly following you if you're going to multiple homes. We don't see as much driving in the same car anymore, and that was an advantage. When you can have a buyer driving in your car, now you're getting to talk to them and be able to have conversations, really get an understanding of where they're at and what they need, what their needs are. But that has changed dramatically. I know I can't. Well, I guess we have recently had buyers in our car, but that was a rarity.
That was your cousin's family.
Yeah, cousin's family, and and we were kind of like all over the board. It's like, well, do we take multiple cars? And my cousin lives just across the street in the next community over, so we just met at their house, picked them up, and went from there. So, which really did make it a lot easier because we could have conversation and get a good understanding, and that's how we knew exactly where we needed to take them to get them the winning home. Because without that, we would have kept chasing that rainbow of them saying, yeah, we love this house. We want to go see this one. We want to go see that one. We want to go see this one. And then all you're doing is you're chasing that rainbow. And if you get to have that conversation, you get to really know and understand who they are, what their needs are. Then you can say, okay, you know what? This is what I'm hearing. Okay. Whole different story from what they said that they wanted. But you know what? Maybe we need to go over here and take a look. And that's exactly what we did. And they were like, oh my God, this is perfect. It's because we listened and were able to understand. But some buyers are like, I don't want to work with sellers. And and that's okay. And that's okay. If you want to be a buyer's agent, you don't want to work with sellers. I'm like, you know what? I work with a seller. I've got a listing agreement, and I've got however many other agents that are in my board working on my behalf to try to sell that house. That's working more like a business owner than a self-employed individual. Okay, and we've talked about that. Self-employed, you're strictly exchanging your time for money. You can't grow, you can't scale your business. But as a business owner, you have people working for you, you have systems working for you, and as you have listings, you've got in Aura, we've got, I don't know, 20 some odd thousand agents out of Aura that are going to then now be trying to sell. And that doesn't even include now, Lake County, Osceola County, and whatever other boards are around us that have agents registered with them that are working all throughout Central Florida. Throughout Central Florida as a whole, we probably have a good 40 or 50,000 agents. When you calculate up all the boards and all the members, and if you include Tampa in that, then it's like, oh my God, Tampa is about this. Actually, I think a little bit bigger than Aura. So yeah, I'd rather have all those thousands of agents trying to sell my listing than me trying to find that one perfect house for a buyer.
Listing agents are employers, buyer's agents are employees.
There you go. Great way to look at it. Love that. Yeah. And that's pretty much how you can look at that. So thanks for that, Ellie. That's a great input. Love that.
Yeah. You also pick up plenty of buyers with the listing. So, I mean, and you're already halfway there because you kind of have an idea what they're looking at. So,
yeah.
And you've
Yeah.
already kind of done the look at the market in the area anyway. So you can kind of get there faster with them.
And when you lose a buyer, the buyer's gone. If your listing goes back on the market, you still have the listing.
Yep. Yeah, that's exactly right. And I think we've been ghosted by more buyers than we have by sellers.
Mhm.
Yeah. Because once we have a seller and we put them, on the listing agreement, we're locked in. You can have a buyer's agreement with a buyer. You're still not really locked in. I mean, they can cancel that anytime. They can ghost you. They can, and you know what? The odds are better that a buyer is going to be a tester than a seller is. So, because a buyer is pretty much anonymous, that a buyer that's a tester is anonymous. You don't know where they live. You can get their ID, but that doesn't necessarily mean that's where they live, right? Testers come out of the woodworks, they show up out of the blue, they start working with you, and then all of a sudden, boom, they're gone. And you start researching them, and they're like, oh, it doesn't even seem like this person exists. So, and I honestly feel I've worked with testers in the past, and I only knew after the fact when I started questioning, like, oh, and analyzing the activities, and then doing some searching on them, and I'm like, oh yeah, I would say that has all the indications of being a tester. So so yeah, look, and I've back in around 2010, 2011, before I became a broker, I think I was carrying about 10 or 12 listings at any given time. So now, that keeps you busy, keeps you hopping. I didn't do a lot of open houses at the time because the market that I was in, I mean, open houses just weren't that effective, especially for the types of listings that I had. If there was a listing that warranted it, I would do an open house. I was more into the broker opens. I did a lot of broker opens because I wanted exposure to my listings by other agents. Because again, I wanted those agents to find the buyers. Whereas if I'm doing the open houses, I'm trying to find the buyers, and that just means more working with buyers. And so, again, these are things you can do to generate. Through an open house, you can generate new listings because you're going to get neighbors that come through. So, but carrying 10 or 12 listings, really, I learned that I got my life back because I was a taxi driver back in the day. I was driving people all around, because of going to these different condos and stuff. It's just like, all right, we're going to ride together. You're going to ride in my car. We're going to go and we're going to do all this. So, and yeah, there was numerous times that, people were just dreaming. They wanted to have that second home, that vacation home. And, you start showing them, and the reality was like, it just wasn't going to work because they'd come to town, they're hot and trot, they leave town, they go back home, and they're cold as ice. So working with buyers, it does take a certain personality, certain desirability, but working with sellers, it definitely gives your life back. My weekends became my own. My evenings became my own again, mostly. Not perfectly, but it was certainly much better than it was. And of course, I had agreements with all these people. We were locked in a contract. And of course, the advantage I had back then is that as a listing agent, I can easily fire a seller. Our listing agreements here in Florida, it has to be mutual. But I will say that something I just saw recently with our brokerage is on our listing agreement addendum. It's a brokerage disclosure, and in that, it does give us the ability to fire a seller for any reason. And I'm like, oh my God, I love this. I didn't see this before. So it pays to read the documents and know what you're having people sign and know what your options are, because you always want to have that ability to fire a seller. Okay, because if the seller's not doing what you need them to do in order for you to sell their home, and it's not going to sell, you don't need to keep wasting your time, money, and effort on trying to sell that property. Does that make sense? It's very empowering when you can let a seller go like that, and they're just not listening. I had one time. She was a short sale, had no bearing on her. I'm like, we can reduce the price. It doesn't affect you in any way. She's like, no, I don't want to lower the price. I showed up at her house one day. I picked up my sign. I was taking the lockbox off, and she opened the door. She's like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "Oh, I'm releasing your listing." I'm like, I have no desire. I can't sell your property. We're overpriced." And she was like, "What?" Yeah, starting. And finally, I got her to reduce her price. Because she was like, "Whoa, why would he just walk away from this listing and this commission? Because I'm not going to get a commission if I can't sell the property." So sometimes you've got to do eye-opening things like that to help them understand the severity of their choices and how it's going to impact the ability to sell their property. Does anybody else have any tactics that they've used in trying to help sellers understand the importance of following direction?
I'm still stuck on one that won't answer me back.
Oh, you're getting ghosted by a seller.
Well, I always tend to find some data and I try to put it on 1 or 2 pages and not swamp them. If I can, and it depends if that's their personality type, but generally it's not about me, it's about what the market is saying, and give them some market data. So it's not personal. It's what can we do for your property in this market? And that kind of gets rid of some arguments. So, or at least some objections. I mean, if it's not me, it's not you, it's what it is. So
it's the market. It's what the market will bear. So, and that's just it. I mean, Valerie's really good at digging up the data. And so if you can provide good data in a way that they understand, and that's where you have to get to know that seller and get to know what they're going to understand, and that's where even understanding DISC and the personality styles, because how you present to those different styles are going to make an impact on how they hear what you're saying. So, and Isis had a question she put in the chat. She said, in this market, how will you put an offer that you can compete with others and win? Yeah. So, believe it or not, that's still going on, right? We're closing one more this week that had multiple offers and we're well above list price, and we're due to be closing here probably tomorrow or Wednesday. We extended from Friday, and so when you're putting in multiple offers and you're working with a buyer and they love this house, but it's a multiple offer situation. Okay, that's where you got to put it back on the buyers. But Mr. Buyer, look, you have to understand that this is a multiple offer situation. How much extra cash do you have so that, if this home you're interested in is on the market at 400,000, I can show you the value might be 425, but they priced it at 400 to get those multiple offers and run the price up. You got to think about, all right, so let's just say asking's 400, it might appraise at 425. What is that home worth to you? Is it worth paying 425? Is it worth paying 440? Is it worth paying 450? Okay, when you compare it to what else is on the market in that price point. And then you got to ask them, look, okay, if we go to 450 and you win the bid, have you got the capital to cover that spread between the appraisal and the sale price so that you're covering that gap? Because that's going to be necessary, because your lender's not going to cover that gap. Okay, the lender's only going to finance up to that, whatever that appraisal is. So, so it really becomes a question on each individual basis, on the property that you're looking to put the offer in, and then the capabilities of the buyer. And then, of course, you got to kind of put your input on it too, because, we've talked to some buyers, we've worked with some buyers, we've put some offers in multiple offer situation, but I'm like, I cannot push this buyer to be where I feel they need to be to win this bid. So let's go through the process. Let's get them up to where they can legitimately afford to pay. Let's let them lose out on a couple, and then that might change the way they're thinking. Maybe they'll magically come up with some other money, which has happened in the past. They've reached out, get a gift from a family member or whatever, and it's like all of a sudden now they've got a little bit extra cash, they can cover that gap. So that's something, there isn't a one right answer on that. It's going to be on a per individual basis, per individual home. And of course, your gut feel too. All right. That's where knowing the market and analyzing the market and the data on that particular property so that you can have a gut feel and say, hey, look, Mr. Buyer, if the home is on the market at 4, might be worth 425, you go to 450, you better make sure you're going to be staying in that home for a long period of time, because you're going to have to recoup that, right? Because if we're seeing values drop a little bit, you got to make sure that if you're planning to stay there for 10 years, doesn't matter. You can overpay for a house. It's not going to be a negative impact. You're going to be in there. You can afford the payment. No big deal. But if your plan is that you're buying this house, but within 5 years, you've got to go somewhere else, then you don't really want to be overpaying for a house, because in 5 years from now, you could be upside down. If you have a small down payment, you might be upside down when it comes time to sell your house in 5 years. Because if the market does continue to roll back, if this becomes a big buyer's market, which it could become a buyer's market, doesn't mean the market's going to crash. It becomes a buyer's market. Sellers have to give up more. They have to be more competitive. Buyers have more opportunities. So you just need to take that on an individual basis. But Ellie, you got to run. Thanks for being here. We have reached the top of the hour. Does anybody else have anything that they'd like to contribute on that? Anybody? I hope this was helpful. And hopefully I put it in a way that you all understand it pretty well. I know time was limited, so I couldn't go into deeper details on some of these predictions and some of the resolutions for those predictions, but I think you get the gist of it. I look forward to seeing you all next week. As I said, I've got some good things to share with you next week that I hope you all be on here. Get some a nice gift coming your way, and hopefully you'll be able to make good use of it and implement it into your business. So if nobody has anything else for the good of the cause, we'll go ahead and call it a day. See you all next week. All right, thanks, guys. Elliot, if you want to hang on.